soldier will use her movement points to move on to this next tile. And we're going to get our first look at a combined tile, which is two 6x6 tiles combined into one large 6x12 tile. Before we populate the tile, I'll explain what some of these items on here that are already placed. You see this little purple disc here with like a piece of cloth that a holy man or a priest would wear. That is Hearn's cassock. We have to retrieve that. Then we have to come over here, and this is Father Josh. He is trapped at the bottom of this well, and we have to help him get out of there. There are no target numbers for either this or rescuing him. We just need to get adjacent and use one of our movement points to perform a non-combat action. Now this combined tile is going to get populated not according to the legends at the bottom of them, but according to the legend for combined tiles in the rulebook. The very first symbol in the rulebook is a quest symbol, which we ignore since we're in a story quest. And next there is a trap. And in this case, the trap encompasses the entire tile. There are no restrictions for this trap, which is Hearn's Pitfall. And in order to disarm this trap, each hero can attempt to disarm the trap once per hero cycle by discarding one of the cards from their hand. By discarding that card, they get one non-combat action, and they have to do a roll to try and disarm at target number 6. If they're successful, they'll place one of the pitfall tokens, which are these right here, on the square that they're standing on, and then they'll move to any adjacent empty square next to that one. And we have to do this 4 times in order to disarm the trap. But when the trap activates, which is at the start of each hero's cycle, each hero is going to roll a fate die. If the result matches any of the hero's defining attributes, and in this case it would be Rage, Faith, and Arcane, that hero takes 2 damage and gains the prone status effect if they fail the disarm roll. Now I'm not quite sure because I haven't looked up yet, because the wording of that last part is a little bit weird to me. It says that they gain the prone status effect if they fail the disarm roll. I don't know if that means that you gain the prone status effect when you're attempting to disarm and you fail, or if that means whenever you take the 2 damage, you have to then attempt a disarm roll, which then if you fail it, you go to the prone status. After we get the tile populated, I'll take a moment to look up Hearn's Pitfall on BGG and see if I can get a more definitive clarification on the rule. The next symbol is the lair symbol, and this time it has a 1 in it, which means 1 lair is mandatory. I think we'll go ahead and get another dose of the elementals, and we'll put the Iathi's lair down on the tile. There are multiple purple shaded areas on the tile, and I chose to place the lair a little bit further away from us to make it a little more difficult for us to get to it and take it out right away. In a 3-player game, the Iathi lair is going to have the initial spawn of 2 fire, 1 earth, and 1 air Iathi, which we have not seen yet. Here's the mini for the air Iathi. You can see they have these weapons that they use to blast air at the players. Let's go ahead and take a look at their card. Here's the card for the air elemental, or the air Iathi. They're a little more difficult to hit. They have a target number of 6 that needs to be rolled at least 2 times during an attack. They are fast. They can move 6. Their courage is good too, at a 3, and they have 1 health. When they attack, they roll 2 10-sided dice to go against 1 target with a target number of 6. And that weapon that we see them with is a mechanized wind funnel. It does 1 attack on 1 target with a range of 2, but it doesn't do damage. It pushes the hero 3 squares towards captains, and then if there's no captains, it's going to move them towards the lair. If they have a successful attack, they'll roll a fate die. If they get a darkness symbol, then they're just going to activate again and go right away. And since they are so fast, the lightning reflexes allow them to always activate first. We'll place our melee attackers first, next to the lair, and they're going to be as close as possible to our fighter who entered the board. So they will go right here on this corner, so they have less distance to travel to get their attacks. And our ranged Iathi will go here towards the back, but they can move really fast so being in the back is not an issue. The next symbol we have is a hunting pack with a 1, so we have to place one hunting pack down. And I think I'll go ahead and introduce another monster type that we have not seen yet. And that type is the Symbios, in this case the Cyclines, or maybe Cycline, I'm not exactly sure, but imagine it's a play on Cyclops, so Cycline or Cycline is probably appropriate either way. Let's take a look at their card. They're melee attackers. To hit them we need a 4, they can move 3, they have 1 health and a courage of 5. When they attack, they roll 1d10 and can attack one target with a target number of 6. The attack is Iathy Bones, 1 attack on 1 target, and it does 1 damage per hit. If that attack lands, they have the special ability of awareness. They roll a fate die, and if successful, they're able to dodge 1 attack. And with their perfect sight, with that big eye they have, they reroll missed attacks once. So they get 2 cracks at you with each attack. And it doesn't specify the size of the pack. It has to be between 3 and 8. And up to this point, things have been going relatively smooth for us. So I'm going to go ahead and throw down 8 of the Cycline. Go ahead and get a look at their minis. There's 2 different sculpts for them. Got the guy with like the stone axe here. And this caveman looking guy with a club. The big eyeball head. I've placed our 8 Cycline. I started here and then had the additional 7 surround him. I also made a move with the air Iathy. I moved it from here to place it over here. I didn't want it to get pinned in, trapped in the back since it activates first. I didn't think it would be fair for it to be stuck back there and not having a clear path of some kind instead of having to go all the way around. The next symbol is 5 treasures, so there will be 5 treasures on the darkness board. The next symbol looks like a pile of gold because it's a pile of gold, and that is a gold hoard. And then if we clear this tile, we will resolve the gold hoard. And finally, that symbol that looks like a sign is for the merchant. So once the heroes have cleared the tile, resolved the gold hoard, then a random merchant will appear that we can do business with. We got a lot going on here. We have a large hunting pack of Cycline. We have a Iathy lair that we're going to have to deal with. We have to get Cossack, rescue Father Josh. And while all that's going on, the entire tile is the Hearn's Pitfall trap that we're going to have to negotiate and disarm. One more thing before we continue on with this turn. I went to Board Game Geek and checked out Hearn's Pitfall, and there's a lot of hatred for this trap. I did look in the old rulebook and compared it to the new trap card. It looks like they made it a little bit easier by changing the target number from 7, like it was in the 1.0 rules, to a target number 6 now. But for the most part, it looks pretty much similar. And looking at the different things that people were debating back and forth, I think I understand the proper way that it's played, or at least this is the way that I'm going to play it, so I'll tell you how I'm going to do it now, that way I'm consistent through the rest of this tile, and in case Hearn's Pitfall comes up in any future tiles. It states that you can disarm the trap by discarding a card. That's fine, that's easy enough to understand, and then you get 1 attempt to disarm it when you discard a card with the target number 6, and you have to do it 4 times in order to completely disarm the trap. All of that seems pretty simple. Easy to understand, and I'll follow it that way. Now in the activation, it says at the start of the hero cycle, each hero rolls a fate die. Easy enough. If that result matches any of the hero's defining attributes, then that hero is dealt 2 damage. Looking in the old rule book, it says that the hero can only be affected by the trap once during each hero cycle, so if I rolled 3 face symbols, the Acolyte's not going to stumble and fall in 3 different holes all in the same hero cycle, so it's only going to be 1 time. And then the rest of that says, and gains the prone status effect if they fail the disarm roll. So the way I'm going to play it is if that attribute comes up, they are going to take the 2 damage as if they stumbled and fell in the hole or almost fell in the hole. And then I'm going to do a disarm roll, which has a target number of 6. Now this won't count as a disarm attempt like it does when you discard one of the cards from your hand. But it'll be more like a quote-unquote savings throw. So if at activation it hits them, they'll take the 2 damage. I'll roll one 10-sided die for that character, and if they get a 6 or above, they'll regain their footing quickly enough to not have the prone condition. If they fail that savings throw, then they will also gain the prone condition in addition to taking the 2 damage. I think that seems pretty fair, or a fair way to play it. If you have any experience with Hearn's Pitfall, let me know, make some comments on what your thoughts are on how I'm deciding to play it, or what my interpretation of the rules are. We're still on our hero cycle, and the soldier has used her base movement to move on to the new tile, and I'm going to have her immediately attempt to disarm Hearn's Pitfall. In her hand, she has 2 impenetrable interrupt cards, so I will discard one of those from her hand, which is what I need to do to make an attempt. So now I can roll 1 die with a target number of 6 as an attempt to one of 4 that I need to completely disarm Hearn's Pitfall. And we have a target number of 6 here. And again, this is an attempt to disarm, so if she fails, then she's not going to take 2 damage and fall prone, which is my interpretation of the rules. Oh, a 4. So she does not successfully disarm it with that attempt. Also, each hero can only make 1 attempt per hero cycle, so she can't do it again this hero cycle. Next, I will have the Acolyte use his base movement, so he can move on to the new tile, and I'll place him right there. Since he used his base movement, I would interpret that as him doing normal movement, especially in reference to spells that they can cast. Because I would like to have cast Stand Fast, but I can't do that because you can only do that if you have stationary movement or no movement. So I am going to cast Feet of the Saints, which is allowed. That way we can reduce the AP cost of attack actions by 1. And that's not going to add any AP to the darkness meter. Then I'm going to have the soldier move 1, because she still has 1 movement left thanks to the Mantle of Fate. She used her base to get here. So she'll move 1, and I'll use her attack card to attack with her Horrifying Spear. And I'm going to aim at this Cyclone right here. I got clear line of sight, and it's 2 squares away. That's going to add 1 to the darkness meter, placing it at 5. And I'm going to go ahead and not worry about that because I have 2 different types of enemies out there, so it was going to increase by 2 anyway and hit 6, so I might as well at least get some attacks off here. I'm definitely hoping to make my Fate Dice recipe here so I can maybe take out 3 total enemies. So we'll get our base to start. The Horrifying Spear will give us 3 and 3. The Boots of Speed will give us another Fate die. And I almost forgot the Feet of Saints was in play. This is in reference to the attack card, which cost 1 AP, and I raised the AP 1, but Feet of the Saints reduces the AP cost of attack actions by 1, so I put the darkness meter back to 4. Plus the Hero's Edge token is still in play, so that's another 1 and 1. And I think that is it. So I'm attacking a Cyclone, so I need a target number of 4. Hopefully that's doable. I see an 8-8. Nope. A hit with every attack. And don't even have to change anything. I got my Rage and my Guile symbol to make my Fate die recipe. The Horrifying Spear does its thing again, causing that Cyclone to be taken out. Also, attacks affect 1 target adjacent to the initial target, and he was surrounded by all of these. Now I definitely don't want to pick the Earth Iathy because they would ignore the first damage, and this only does 1 damage with that special. If I hit the Fire Iathy, I'm going to take a damage from the Molten Armor, but I think they are the most dangerous since I need 2 successful target numbers to hit them. So I'm going to go ahead and affect this Fire Iathy right there, do 1 damage, and take him out. And since I made my Fate die recipe, I can deal 2 damage to 1 target within 4 squares. I'm definitely going to go after that Earth Iathy. He's going to absorb that first damage with the Granite Skin, but the second one will get through. Take him out also. That was 3 enemies, so we'll drop a treasure. raise the soldier's threat by 3 up to 4. I think it's time to bring our apprentice onto the tile now. I know she used 1 movement point when she did that last disarm on the whirling blades, or rather the whirlwind of steel. But I think it's fair to say that that movement point was the 1 extra movement point she got from the Ring of Neria. And I'll use her base movement now to bring her to the tile. Now that the apprentice is here, I'm going to have her start working on that lair by casting Arcane Lance. And like I said previously, this will qualify as her using her base movement as a normal move as far as spell casting goes. And with Arcane Lance, it's going to make the lair target number 1 higher, a little bit more difficult to hit. Arcane Lance does have a range of 4. Here she is. 1, 2, 3, 4. No problem there. And we got a really nice clear line of sight all the way to that lair. This is an attack action. She's on the tile with the Acolyte, so the Feet of the Saints will reduce that attack action by 1. So we don't have to add anything to the darkness meter. Hopefully we can hit with this Arcane Lance since it does 2 damage. It'll give us a good start on taking this lair out. Arcane Lance does use a focus, so our Demon's Bane will give us 2 d10 and 4 fate dice. Another fate die for the Ring of Neria, and I think that's all we can do. The target number for a lair is 3. It's 1 more difficult because she moved when casting her Arcane Lance. So we needed a 4. We got 2 4s and a 10, no problem. And that'll be our first 2 damage on that lair. Those 2 damage take the threat up to 2 for the apprentice. And before this hero cycle ends, definitely want to have the apprentice and the acolyte discard a card and attempt to disarm Hearn's Pitfall. I will have the apprentice discard Meditate and take a crack at disarming Hearn's Pitfall. A 6, nice. She was successful, so where she's at, we will place 1 of the Hearn's Pitfall tokens, and she will move to any adjacent square that's open. I'm not going to put her right in the line there of fire, so we'll just move her right there for now. And Hearn's Pitfall traps, or the disarmed areas where the pits are at, you cannot move through those. They don't block line of sight, but we can't move through them. And I will have the Acolyte discard Prey and take a crack at it also. The Acolyte takes a shot. Oh, not successful. I'm still having a little bit of difficulty with the Hearn's Pitfall wording. That last part of the sentence, it says, gains a prone status if they fail the disarm roll. And I just said I was going to do it as like a savings throw, that if they fail to disarm it, they don't take the damage and are not knocked prone. But I think that's incorrect. I think they should take the damage, and they are knocked prone if they fail to disarm. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to modify the order I did things in so we don't have to make too many corrections here. The Acolyte failed, so he's going to take 2 damage and go prone. The Soldier failed and should take 2 damage and go prone too. But she made that attempt before she made her attack. I'm going to say for the sake of the narrative that she made her attack first and then attempted to disarm the trap. So now I will make her take 2 damage and be prone. When they're prone, that means they cannot play any more cards or move for the remainder of this hero cycle. These tokens are used to represent the prone status. They usually go over on the player boards, but I'm going to place them directly on the bases of those players' tokens because that'll be a nice visual reminder for myself too, because if they're over on the player boards, which are off to the left, I might not see them and I'll forget. So the soldier did take 2 damage, taking her down to 5, along with the Acolyte taking him down to 6. Now I'm going to have to do a much better job of managing my health, and I'm going to only attempt to disarm once I've done everything else that I wanted to do that hero cycle. That way if we get knocked prone, it only affects the very end of the hero cycle. Unless, of course, we roll it at the beginning of the next hero cycle when it activates and they get knocked prone again. But that would not stop them from using cards in the darkness phase because it said the prone status affects them for the remainder of the hero cycle. If we leave the hero cycle, go into the deck phase, and get some interrupt cards, then we can still play them during the darkness phase. We'll go into our hero deck phase then. reduce the soldier by 3 threat back down to 1. The acolyte by 3 back down to 1. And we will not reduce the apprentice threat by any. And I will go ahead and clear research. That way I have a couple more open spaces here. I'm going to keep Hero's Edge and Sphere Deflection. In the hero deck phase, the apprentice decided to keep Riftwalk and drew Blink, Reservoir of the Ancients, Breath of Heroes, and Illuminate. The acolyte kept Soothe Wounds, drew Consuming Fire, Stand Fast, Hand of the Father, and Armor of Faith. The soldier kept Impenetrable and drew Your Mother is a Crawler, Hustle, Riding the Edge, and the Hidden Blade. There are 2 active monster types out there. The darkness will go up 2 to 6 and activate. If there are 2 captains and a single realm tile, convert into a mini-boss. Well, luckily that didn't happen. Threat penalty, we don't have to worry about. The minions will activate. Oh no, it's a deadly spawn. We're going to see 2 of the elemental captains.